It's been 7 months.
7 months, Ollie? I mean, you were trans
I-
for years. How are you going to spend 7 months as a man and then presume to tell people how to live their lives?
There ain't no way. This man is talking to Ollie London. There ain't no way.
Actually having a tough time now because of these trans activists. So my issue is with trans activists and not actual trans people.
Are
okay,
you
so you
joking?
say, here's a tweet of yours from just the end of last month, not that long ago, right? Or no? Yeah, it's like from 5 days ago. You say, the goal of the trans movement is not simply to exist. The goal is to erase women, mutilate children, sexualize kids, take away free speech, class pedophilia
Oh
as
my
an
God.
identity, remove parental rights, indoctrinate kids, violence to obtain, and they're willing to do violence to obtain their goals. So when you say the trans movement, it seems to me that you are speaking generally about trans people having this goal. And when you say trans movement, I don't know exactly what you mean, because it seems that most trans people, or that I've seen, maybe with the exception of Caitlyn Jenner, it seems to disagree with this, seems to identify as being parts of the trans movement. So what is the difference between, what is the trans movement? Who is a member of that? What is this organization?
Okay, so what I'm talking about here is the trans movement in the trans activist movement. So the people pushing these ideologies. So we see every single day. Just yesterday, the Texas state capitol was invaded. The trans protesters went there. We see women being attacked at women's rights rallies, physically attacked, and we're seeing this trans activist movement pushing for gender affirming care on kids, which is basically putting 11, 12-year-old kids on very harmful hormones. So that's what I'm talking about. When I talk, I'm not generalizing every single trans person. I'm talking about the current trans movement, which has been hijacked by trans activists. And, I really think that trans people that have been living as a trans person their whole life, they need to speak out against this, because the problem is that the LGBT community is being hijacked by these radical people.
Let me ask, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to address things you said already, right? So you say that the people who are demonstrating at the Texas,
Bro, Ethan is so good at this shit.
part of this trans movement, who wants to
He don't need my help at all.
sexualize kids and this whole list of things. They were there to protest a bill, SB 14, that would ban gender-related treatment for minors. So these guys are, I guess, see that as an affront, as being transphobic. But you disagree, because what is minor? Anyone 17 and under? Do you believe that ever there would be a 17-year-old that needed gender-affirming care?
So minor is basically classified anyone under 18. And what these people were protesting against was the fact that Texas is trying to pass a law to ban hormones and puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgery being administered to children, basically. So, I think these people, firstly, that was an unlawful protest. You can't just go into a state capitol and do that. And if they want to have a...
Are you in favor of only lawful protests?
For the record, this is Ethan's greatest enemy yet, because every anti-trans activist is has encyclopedic knowledge of every fucking minor infraction that trans people have ever committed. So this is the highest level of debate that he's ever engaged with. I'm gonna be honest. It's like debating a flat earther. It's very difficult to debate flat earthers, no matter how much you know the science, because they can constantly trap you in their junk science, and they know more than you in the junk science. So transphobia is kind of like that too.
Probably no, or I think you did at one point, is that gender affirming care on children is exceedingly rare. It's actually so rare that if to express like irreversible gender changes on children is something like, I've got the number here, 0.000493% of U.S. children aged 6 through 17 go through irreversible gender changes. So I guess I'm just curious, because in the cases where they do undergo it, it's usually to save their life, right? Because they might be suicidal or yeah, right? And they go through like panels, they go through multiple rounds of talking to psychiatrists and doctors. So I guess I'm just curious, why is it you think that this is threatening kids instead of actually helping kids who are at high risk of hurting themselves?
So, Ethan, about 10 years ago, when gender affirming care was performed on whether that was minors or adults, there was a lot of checks and balances. Now it has become so easy. So they don't have the psychiatrist appointments anymore. They don't have, having to wait several years to transition. Now it's a fast track process. And that's the real issue, because many of these teens, and we're seeing thousands of teens being transitioned and put on hormones. The number's really gone up in the last few years. Many of these teens are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism. They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with...
The way you look and the way you sound plays a serious role in how you're perceived in debates. And Ollie London looks like shit. So, like, it's very hard for people to take him seriously. You know what I mean? It's just like, he just looks so fucking insane, because he's unhinged. He's an unhinged psychopath.
The system is being exploited.
Like, he was like, he was trying to be like transracial or some shit. Remember? Like,
there's so many examples.
It's not going to work.
People. But the thing is now is, previously, as difficult as it was, because it's so hard when you're trans to struggle and to think every day that I'm trapped in the wrong body. It is horrific to go through that. But the problem is, years ago, they would have 2 to 3 years they would have to undergo of psychiatrist appointments, doctors.
Ethan should go, wait, you transitioned years ago. What does that say then?
So easy. And there are thousands of kids being fast tracked and put on hormones, prescriptions. And some kids can now go to states like Colorado or Washington State, which have become sanctuary states. And they don't
I want to actually address what you said about you had said something about Jamie Reed's allegations, right? But that was debunked, right? Because the parents and the children there who actually were attending that facility actually told a completely different story. Have you read their account of that?
Yes. So I saw recently that they did an internal investigation. They said it wasn't true, but I don't believe that.
Well, that seems significant.
Yes, but I don't believe that at all, because
they're
trying to cover their back.
You don't believe the internal investigation?
No, because there were multiple parents. When the Daily Caller originally did the interview of Jamie Reed, there were multiple parents that said basically their kids weren't looked after. Once they left the clinic, there were no checks and balances, and there were parents confirming that. So, I believe the investigation has a lot of bias, because it's done by the clinic and they're profiting.
So the internal investigation said there was no wrongdoings. The patients said there was no wrongdoings. So I guess I'm just curious, the people who are claiming that there was something wrong there is like the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. Are you saying that they don't have a bias?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have a bias and stuff, but, we have to look at these gender clinics as a whole. Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that this is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that it's perfect.
Did you say fine. Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being like a sex criminal and like scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right?
He's not part of that organization now. So the organization that left, Project Veritas, the original organization, did this investigation.
They don't have a lot of credibility, Veritas. It seems like every investigation they do is just chock full holes of untruths and just blatant lies. I don't think it's a very credible institution for pulling data from.
Well, there's multiple organizations like Project Veritas that do expose
Which other ones?
This. So Gays Against Groomers, I'm ambassador for them. They are also exposing this happening in clinics. Mm-hmm.
Gays Against Groomers. So
have you heard of that?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organization of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans people as well. Basically, this organization is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender.
That's also a lie. Gays Against Groomers is like literally started by a straight man.
Where's the grooming come in, though? That's the part that I find like really inflammatory, because grooming implies that trans people or trans activists, and it's what you said here in this tweet, that they're pedophiles, that they're sexualizing kids. So where's that evidence come from? Because it's one thing to say we're against, gender affirming care for minors, but it's a whole different thing to say, they're grooming.
Well, that word is basically used because we're seeing many drag shows, like adult drag shows, where kids are attending, and it's very sexually explicit. So that is a form of grooming. We also see these kids' books in public libraries and in schools where they're teaching kids about drag and being trans. That's not a subject a kid should hear. So that is a form of grooming, because it's indoctrinating kids.
I've heard, I know that there was that one drag show with kids that was kind of a hot button issue. What other examples can you think of drag shows with kids involved where they're being groomed?
So there's in the last year, there's an investigative journalist, Taylor Hanson. He's exposed at least 20 drag shows in Texas that are called
20?
all ages drag shows. They're called all ages drag shows, and they're basically doing sex acts on stage. They have breasts. They're doing very inappropriate things. So it's just.
So hold on, sorry, Ollie. You're making so many claims, and I just want to get to each one. You mentioned an organization, Gays Against Groomers, which was founded by Jamie Mitchell. Is that right? So Jamie Mitchell and their partner are ultra MAGA Trump followers, and there's nothing wrong with being a Trump supporter, but they're also anti-transgender. They spread anti-transgender propaganda with QAnon conspiracy theories, and interestingly, the founders are straight. So how is it that they can make a gays against a groomers organization when they themselves are not even gay? That seems disingenuous.
Well, firstly, that's a Wikipedia page. Wikipedia has a lot of bias with the woke people that write on there.
Jamie Mitchell is gay.
She's gay. She's a lesbian. All of the people, you have to be LGBT to be a member.
How do they check
of Gays Against Groomers? So there's
how do they verify the credentials?
No, I mean, if someone says they're gay or bi, you accept that. You don't say, oh, can you prove that you're gay? How can you prove that? So, Jamie Mitchell is a lesbian. All of the members are lesbians, trans. It's not anti-transgender at all. They support people being trans as an adult, but what they're trying to do is calling out the harm that we're seeing caused to children. And that's the real issue here, is about protecting kids.
Yeah, tell that to the Turkish military.
Go back to your claim about grooming. So you brought up the drag show for kids. Is there any other examples, or are we just talking about drag shows? Because I have to assume that the drag shows, even if it's as widespread as Project Veritas claims, which heaven knows how credible they are, there's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages. And, if you want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things. He's doing imitating blowjobs. He has, fetish gear on, and there's kids in the audience. So it's not just about drag queens. It's about protecting kids in general. So even if it's Cardi B, I don't think kids should be at a Cardi B concert if she's twerking or doing like something very, very sexual. I think it's just about protecting
grooming.
Kids.
But you turn on the TV. You see stuff worse than that, right? On YouTube and stuff. To say they're grooming them seems pretty disingenuous and actually really homophobic and transphobic to put this label that they're groomers, because you understand the gravity of such a claim, right?
Well, it's a very loaded word. I get that, but it's not an attack on the LGBT community at all. It's about basically calling out specific cases. It's not an attack on trans people, calling out specific cases where children are being exposed to something that's highly inappropriate and trying to raise awareness of that. So it's not a label that's attached to gay people, lesbians, trans people. It's literally about calling out.
I think more people should utilize the Mrs. Doubtfire argument, like as I like to call it. Do you think Mrs. Doubtfire was grooming an entire generation of children to be trans?
Gross. They were selling, it was like a kid's t-shirt with a trans person on it, and then they had kids' toys with trans people on it, and it was kind of gross and groomy. Have you seen anything like that before?
I've seen T-shirts that the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota wore, protect trans kids, with a knife on it. Things like that. I've seen T-shirts that says protect trans rights with AK-47s on it and stuff. And, I don't think that's helpful messaging and that's just trans activists, by the way, Ethan. This is a small number of people, and that's who I'm calling out. That's who Gays Against Groomers are calling out. It's not the trans.
The Mrs. Doubtfire argument is not to own your interlocutor. It's to make your interlocutor look like a fucking psychotic woke scold from the right, of course, to onlookers.
You are actually selling kids' lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman. And you're selling
No, that's not as a trans woman. That's not as a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
Okay, because this is you. I had a feeling you would say that, because here it is, you wearing that design, and it's pretty obvious to tell that this is depicting you. This is from
correct.
Just like a month ago. And this is when you were trans.
Wearing my merch.
Yeah. So do you think it's appropriate to sell this to kids?
Well, it's a lunchbox with a picture of a K-pop cartoon.
Well, it's you as a trans. It's you as a trans woman.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not. But that's not inappropriate.
Right, but at the time you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time I was a trans woman, but there's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you
with
as
that.
a trans woman.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer.
It does not depict me as a trans woman. It depicts me.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer back then. I'm not anymore.
You're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about groomers and stuff, because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy. And even if you go, and this is all
an innocent picture.
Well, hold on, Ollie, hold on one
picture.
sec. Even if you go on your website right now, you're selling the same graphic, Ollie London, Ollie Merch Squad, as you depicted as a trans woman. And if you look at the available sizes, it's just kids. 3 to 4? Do you think it's appropriate for a 3 to 4-year-old to buy this shirt?
Yeah, of course. Any K-pop fan, if they want to buy my merch, they're absolutely entitled to. There's nothing inappropriate with that merch at all. It's
that is a trans woman, Ollie. You're not understanding your own logic.
You're clutching at straws.
How am I? You were a okay. Hold on. Let's follow this through. You were a trans woman when you made this. There's a picture of you wearing it. It's obviously you as a trans woman. Here's you as a trans woman, and here's you as a trans woman on the shirt, on a kid's shirt. How am I clutching at straws?
Well, you're clutching at straws. It's an innocent cartoon. It doesn't say anything about indoctrinating
The tongue
children.
is somewhat sexual. How the tongue is out like that, it's a little disturbing.
Ethan, come on, I'm doing a K-pop pose. You're just clutching at straws.
No, why is the tongue out? I find that a little provocative.
Ethan, it's a cartoon. You're just trying to make a joke.
Well, I don't know,
out of it.
because you're no, I'm not trying to make a joke. I think this is a somewhat serious issue to resolve here, because I'm being serious, Ollie, because let's at least be consistent. If we're going to accuse people of grooming kids, and which you have made a short-lived but somewhat profitable career of doing, then I think we need to, we need to get on top of this. I just don't think it's appropriate to be selling lunch boxes with a trans woman on it.
Ethan, if that lunchbox had something inappropriate or sexual, that would be wrong. But this is an innocent cartoon of me doing a K-pop pose. There's nothing wrong with that particular picture. If it was inappropriate or in a sexual way, that would be completely wrong. And of course, I would never sell that. But that's an innocent drawing of a cartoon, Ethan.
Do you think it's appropriate for a drag queen, for kids to buy? Let's say a kid's at a drag queen show. That's grooming. And let's say they are selling lunch boxes to the kids with a picture of a drag queen on it, doing a cute pose or whatever, right? Not sexual, but they're in drag. Do you think it's appropriate for a kid to carry that lunchbox?
Well, I think it's appropriate if the kid's at a drag show that's inappropriate, because some drag shows are generally not inappropriate. But a lot of them are becoming sexualized.
That's interesting. So some drag shows are appropriate and some aren't.
Correct. It's about doing some. No, correct. It's about, if you're going to do anything in front of kids, it should be PC. It should not have anything sexual. But sadly, a lot of these shows are doing sexual things, so kids should not be there. If their merch is there and it's a show that's sexual, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Okay, this is interesting. So you're saying it is okay for kids to go to drag shows?
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they should in general, but I'm just saying
if they're not sexual, and I would assume it's not because it's for kids, right? I mean, if they're doing sexual stuff, I would consider that. Obviously, everyone would consider that inappropriate. But I believe you've just said drag shows are safe for kids. In fact, you would even be okay. Well, hold on. You even said you'd be okay with them carrying a drag show lunchbox.
No, look, I just don't think kids should be anywhere that is putting ideas into their heads. If a show is innocent, that's obviously better than it being a sexual show. But I still don't think kids should be exposed to gender ideology.
But what about this lunchbox you're selling to kids?
That has nothing to do with any kind of ideology. It's a K-pop picture, so.
Yeah, but you're in drag in the picture. You're trans.
I'm not in drag.
Well, you're trans. Sorry, yeah, you're right. You're not in drag. I misspoke. You're trans. You're a woman. You're expressing yourself as a woman on the box. It's just a cartoon, Ethan. I don't know why you keep going on about it's a cartoon. It's just a cartoon. I mean, I feel like you're trying to downplay the significance of this, Ollie. I'm just afraid that some of the people that you associate with might consider this grooming by your own standard. I'm just looking out for you and your reputation. It's just silly, Ethan. It's an innocent cartoon. If it was an inappropriate picture, that would be wrong. Okay. What do you make of this picture? Are these kids in danger? Your thoughts? Well, I haven't seen the video of that particular show, and it depends what book they're reading. If the drag queen is teaching them about gender ideology. It appears to be depicting some fish, a couple of fish in the ocean. It seems like that's the rainbow fish. The rainbow fish. It seems to be the rainbow fish, Ollie.
Well, you know, I think a lot of these books are pushing even subtle messages on gender ideology, trying to tell kids you should be trans and become LGBT, and kids should make that decision on their own. So if that book is teaching them about, you know, transitioning or becoming a drag queen, that's inappropriate.
It's
and that's
the rainbow
issue
fish.
Yes, but I haven't read the book. I can't see what the book is. So based on that one picture, does that book contain subtle messaging that's trying to tell kids to change their gender when they shouldn't be thinking about things like that? And, you know, in Florida, they've obviously banned books in the classroom that teach gender ideology. And there's a lot of books, kids' books. There's a book called The Gay ABCs, and that pushes gender ideology. For 2-year-olds, it's 2+. And I don't think that's appropriate for a kid that just should be reading kids' books that are completely innocent. They shouldn't even be...
But what do you make of this? What do you make of this lunchbox, though?
Why do you keep going back to the lunchbox?
Because you know, it's got a picture of a trans woman on a kid's lunchbox.
Got a picture of a K-pop star on the lunchbox.
Who's the K-pop star? Who is the K-pop?
Come on, Ethan,
it's you, right?
It's me.
Yeah, it's you. And this K-pop star is a trans woman, right?
I was trans at the time. The image doesn't necessarily depict any kind of gender.
So you're saying, did the photo of you?
Not even it's not even a photo of me. It's literally a cartoon. I had an anime cartoon drawn of me.
Right.
Would you buy it?
Sorry?
Would you buy it for your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't, just because I don't want to support you financially.
I've been listening, by the way. I'm just setting up the bed.
But theoretically, I don't think I'd have a problem with. No, I wouldn't have a problem with my children.
There you go, Ethan. So this is what I was gonna say. The one issue with like buyer logic style arguments is that you have to clarify, like you don't actually have an issue with Ollie London selling this. It's that he has an issue with it, but he himself is also a grifter.
Or even elementary school, when they shouldn't be thinking about that. I think it's wrong to expose them to that. I think
exposing them.
Also, airtight argument from Ollie. That's not me as a trans woman. I'm a K-pop star. Okay, dude. Like,
but I think it's a really important point that you're not.
Good one,
good
one, Ollie. I'm sure everyone is gonna think you're a K-pop star. That's a great one.
Why is it still on your website? At least, you know.
You know, it's come on, Ethan. I don't know what to say. It's a cartoon of a K-pop star.
Yeah,
and it's very innocent.
Yeah,
it's just
that's infallible. Yeah, no, that's the best defense, man. You got it.
Trans kids on there. That would have a message. That would have a loaded gender ideology message. But it literally says Ollie Squad with a cartoon of me doing the peace sign. It's like super cute, super innocent. Just like most K-pop stars are like super cute, you know? There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, aren't you making like the Higo face a little bit?
What, do you think I should make it more masculine?
No, the Higo face is like some kind of hentai thing, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Bro said Higo face. Ahego, you fucking lack of pervert.
Well,
you don't know what? It's not Higo, it's Ahego.
Hold on.
He's not perverted enough. Uncultured.
No.
I don't believe you. Come on.
No, I watch anime like I watch Attack of the Titans and stuff.
That's straight cap, my brother. This is it, and you can see the resemblance, right? Here's the Ahigo face.
Go on.
It's like a hentai reference. But but you see the resemblance, right?
Can you put them side by side?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to.
I mean, that's quite a cute drawing.
Right, but that's like a woman like orgasming is what that is.
Well,
or like lustful. It's like a lustful kind of sexual gratification.
Adrian, you're really clutching at straws. I'm literally like, I've got my eyes open, I'm doing the peace sign, and you're trying to dissect it and say this, honestly.
Right. It just seems to me that even as a trans person, you shouldn't be exposing kids to that. It seems like you're shoving gender ideology down kids' throats by selling them a lunchbox with a trans woman on it. You don't see my point at all? You don't get it?
No, I don't. You know, I would see your point completely if, for instance, it had messaging on there, like some political, because I don't think kids should be exposed to politics either. You know, political or gender ideology message. If that was on there, that'd be different. If it was a sexually suggestive image, but this is literally an innocent cartoon. I've got my eyes open. I'm doing the peace sign. You could not get innocent. What do I need to do, Ethan, like to please people? Do I have to like close my eyes?
Well, I personally don't necessarily have a problem. What is your fascination with the eye wideness? I haven't said anything about that.
About what? Sorry.
You said, what do I have to close my eyes? I didn't know what that meant. You kept mentioning about like the eye wideness of how wide it is. I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
No, I'm just saying that, look, in the picture, my eyes, it's not even me, by the way, it's a cartoon, but the eyes are very wide open, like glistening. I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with having my eyes open? Like, we're human beings. We have to have our eyes open. Would it be better if I close my eyes? Would it be better if I close my eyes?
I don't know. I don't know what that means, Ollie. Here's a reference to popular culture with the Ahigo face. It's, you know, like kind of an e-girl thing. You're probably aware of that.
Well, I'm not an e-girl, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you're on the internet, and it's from anime, which you seem to be. Okay, but let's move
No,
on.
I do know anime and stuff. I don't know anything to do with that pose. Literally, I've got my mouth open like this. Peace.
Ethan, move on from the Ahigawa, man. He's still talking about the Ahigo
Girl,
face.
let me do it.
Thanks.
Yes, girl. So are you? So the trans, but you identify as a male now. You're not trans. We're over that.
No, I'm like, well, basically, I got to a point where I was going to probably die from all the surgery I was doing, and I was really mentally struggling. Had a lot of mental health struggles based on a variety of issues, which I talk about in my book. From when I was being bullied very severely as a kid. I was always told I was like ugly, or I looked like a monster, or I was more feminine, or I had man boobs. So I just used to have all those things, and it left me with traumas. So it kind of messed up my head. And as an adult, I didn't deal with that in the way that I should have. I should have had therapy. I should have spoke to someone. Instead, it was almost like self-harming. So all this crazy surgery was me kind of lashing out at the bullies, and it was very, very destructive for me and for other people. So I'm glad to be over that.
Do you think that people who are bullied are at a higher chance of becoming trans?
Yes, definitely. So I talk about this in my book. There's a lot of studies. There was a study in Finland by the top transgender clinic that was basically transitioning a lot of kids. And they said around 45% of the kids had experienced severe bullying. So that led to their gender dysphoria identity. But there's also the other side.
Your theory is that the bullying leads to the dysphoria, not the dysphoria leading to the bullying, which would be more logical.
I was just about to say as well, but there is also the flip side of that, where the kids are being bullied because of their identity, because maybe a boy is more feminine or a girl is more like a tomboy. So they're also being bullied for that. But in certain studies, the one in Finland at Tampere University, they found that there was a significant correlation between a kid being bullied and then the onset of their gender dysphoria coming afterwards rather than before. But, of course, it works both ways.
I mean, the type of bullying that Ollie London received was positive, okay? I'll say it. Like, yeah, no, people were, like, yelling at you, and they didn't bully you because you were trans. They bullied you because you're out of your fucking mind. Like, no one is out there being like, wow, Ollie London's trans. I mean, I'm sure there were some transphobic people that actually were bullying him. But, those people are now his allies, right? Most people, like myself, were looking at that and going, you're fucking out of your mind. Like, you're not Jimin. You're not him. You are not him, okay? You can't be fucking Korean like that. It doesn't work that way, you dumbass.
Heteronormality. I think so it seems to be saying the opposite, actually, of what you've claimed it said. Do you see what I'm referring to? Heteronormality?
Yeah, no, I see that. I see that article.
Look who's back, by the way.
If you actually read the full study, which
that's
I've read
the conclusion.
Full study, you can find it on the National Institute of Health.
Oh no, this is the study. Yeah,
let me have a look.
Yeah, no, this is the study. It's the .gov.
Finland. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. And then this is the author's conclusion right there. I mean, that's pretty much that. This is the one you're talking about. Do you disagree?
Yes, but the study's also saying it's associated with being bullied and being the perpetrator. So it's basically saying that but
the message. This is the last sentence. So let's read this together carefully. Mm-hmm. It suggests that bullying during adolescence may serve as a mechanism of maintaining heteronormality. So do we understand what that says?
No, I get what it's saying. It's basically saying that some of these kids that are being bullied will maintain their original identity because of the bullying. Correct. But the study also, if you read the full study, the study also speaks, there's a high correlation there's two different findings in the study. There's a finding that around 45% of the kids are bullied, and that causes the gender dysphoria. And there's also a part of the study which also says, like the conclusion is finding that some of these kids are bullied because of their gender dysphoria, and it makes it worse. So
it seems like if two outcomes are possible, then it doesn't seem that interesting. I wonder why you bring it up.
Well, no, read the full study. It also talks about the correlation between autism.
I mean, this is the author. They wrote the conclusion right here. This is their.
That's a small summary on Yahoo
that's
News.
The author. That's the author. That's their conclusion.
Correct.
Right.
But if you read in the National
better
Institute
to draw
of
a conclusion than the author of the study.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Ollie London, duh. Bet the author is gay or something. Fuck it.
People from becoming. According to this, bullying prevents more kids from transitioning. Do you believe that we need more bullying?
No, I'm an advocate against bullying. I think whoever gets bullied, it's so wrong. I've been bullied myself, and I'm an advocate
But if
for trying to
bullying
stop that.
results
Nobody
in less
deserves to be bullied.
transitioning, then that, according to what you're saying, is the best outcome for these kids.
No, I don't agree at all. No kid, even if a kid is feminine or a girl is a tomboy, they should not get bullied. No one should get bullied. They should be provided with support. But if somebody wants to transition,
Notice how Ollie's not talking about transitioning. He's saying, "Oh, you're just tomboys."
all these kids are going through so many issues during that time. They are not in the right frame of mind to make an informed consent decision.
If a child is suicidal, do you believe?
I personally think it's pretty funny that he got that fucking nose job and it's so busted that one of his nostrils literally doesn't move in the same way that the other one does. And he's over here talking about how, like, no one should get any kind of gender affirmation care. Like, bro, you fix your own shit, okay? What the fuck is this?
Told them your kids are going to commit suicide if you don't transition them. But what they said afterwards is they actually felt worse 6 months down the line after their transition because they've got hormones in their body, they've got puberty blockers, and they even had double mastectomy.
That the vast majority of people that transition don't regret it. I think it's like 95%, 99%. Are you aware of that stat?
You don't hear the cases of the detransitions.
Are you aware, Ollie, that 99%?
No, that's not true. We only hear the detransitioners in comparison.
I don't support that statistic. I think it's wrong because these clinics.
From what authority do you disprove that statistic?
Well, look, these clinics make these studies. They don't even do follow-up studies. There's an example of a.
Do you not trust studies? Because you just told me to read one.
Look, what I'm saying is the gender clinics make billions of dollars every year. Their studies are skewed and biased.
In a review of 27 studies involving almost 8,000 teens and adults who had transgender surgeries, mostly in Europe, US, and Canada, 1% on average expressed regret. For some, regret was temporary, but a small number went on to detransition. But that's 1%. That seems like a very small amount to be singularly focused on. And this is 27 studies, so this is a massive kind of conclusion, right? A scientific conclusion, a consensus, if you would.
Yes, but what I'm saying is there's a clinic, for instance, Tavistock Clinic, which was the main clinic in the UK. They were actually exposed. They were doing studies as well. They weren't bothering to check with the detransitioners. They didn't bother to check with the detransition. They didn't check how the hormones were affecting them over a year.
I know what you're talking about. That English one for
yeah.
So that one, if I recall, I looked into that. I believe it was people say it was shut down. It was actually, wasn't it?
It's being shut down,
right? But
still open.
They're actually making a bigger one so they can serve more needs. I actually, so it's not really being shut down, actually. Say the name again. What is it?
It's called Tavistock. Tavistock.
Yeah.
So that one's actually being shut down this year because basically the National Health Service, which is basically looks after all the hospitals in the UK for the government, they actually said that there were a lot of ethical violations and stuff, and they also changed their policy.
It's funny to think that like Turf Island has any positive say on this matter. Or like shutting down hospitals implies anything but like conservative austerity measures in place for the UK. Okay, one, they're horrifically transphobic over there. Sorry, it's just the truth. And two, they're fucking shutting down hospital care nonstop because of fucking Tory austerity.
27 studies. Then why did you tell me to read this one, Ollie? You use studies when it's convenient for you. But you don't when it goes against your thesis. I don't understand your consistency with studies. Do we like them or no?
What I'm trying to say, Ethan, is the gender clinics are very, very powerful.
Do we? No. Ollie, do we like studies or not? All studies or no studies?
I like studies.
Oh, we do.
I like studies.
You do like studies.
But you have to always look at bias. The clinic in Finland was a transgender clinic that made the study. So they had different findings to many of the clinics in America that are saying there's a low detransition rate. But there are thousands of detransitioners out there. They're just not sharing their stories because of fear of being attacked. And, they get abuse every single day from trans activists. So there's thousands of kids out there there's 50,000 detransitioners on a Reddit subreddit forum speaking about detransitioning, but they're scared to come out and talk about it because they're going to get attacked. So there's a lot of people hiding.
You seem to be in denial, Ollie, that the vast, vast majority of these people, let's say there's a bias. Let's say instead of 1%, it's 10% regret it. And that's a huge deviation. So I'm giving you a lot of doubt here. If 10% only regret it, do you think that on whole of the 90% who don't regret it and who had what they consider life-changing health care, why would you seek to deny them life-changing healthcare when they
Ethan,
they say this saved my life?
Well, Ethan, children can't get tattoos, children can't buy cigarettes or buy alcohol, so how on earth can they consent to doing something they don't even understand about? We have to look at many of these kids. They don't understand, they don't think about the future. Like, if a kid changes their body, they have gender reassignment surgery or take hormones, they might not be able to have a baby when they're older. They don't think about those things because they're kids. So the issue is just, we shouldn't be doing this to kids. It should happen, as an adult, they can make informed consent. But even with some of the parents agreeing to it.
Do you know how many kids between the age of
the counter to this
17 went through irreversible surgery in the United States?
That's one counter,
I know,
but the real counter
is
is
every year. Now it will be several thousand.
So the number of patients, of children between 6 and 17 who went through irreversible surgery in the United States. What was the years on that one?
It's 3 years, 2019 through 2021.
So this is the most comprehensive data we have, and this comes straight from the government stats. It was 250 per year. Does that seem significant to you?
That's completely incorrect, because there's a clinic in Oregon. It's in the thousands now. There's a clinic in Oregon that's done at least
the thousands. Is that significant? 1,000? I mean, we have 50 million children in the United States. Do you think 1,000 is statistically significant?
There's thousands, and this study probably only takes into account.
This is one counter. The other counter is not only is it statistically insignificant and you're making a fucking mountain out of a molehill, the other counter always is, okay, what if you have a child, okay, who is in a situation where puberty blockers are medically necessary? And then he'll say, no, that's not the case. That's like trans people, blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, again, contraceptives and certain kinds of certain kinds of hormone blockers are absolutely medically necessary for young girls, for example, that have issues related to their fucking genitals and shit. You know what I mean? It's still medically necessary. Do you think that they should stop birth control? In many instances could literally be life-saving. It's not even just about like, kids are having sex and we need to make sure that you're curbing back on teenage pregnancy. It is an absolute medical necessity for a lot of people, a lot of girls especially. Do you think that is appropriate, or do you want to stop that? And if he says, yes, that is appropriate, that should happen, then you go, okay, well then why the fuck do you have a say on other medically necessary circumstances? Do you think you should set the boundaries on what is considered medically necessary and what's not medically necessary? Or should we leave that standard up to the medical professionals, the healthcare professionals that have the welfare of the entire public in mind and aren't some fucking psychotic people who thought they were Korean 3 months ago?
On the right, that they're turning our kids gay. That turned out not to be true. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely
So hold on to that. So now today, we see the same graph going up of trans kids getting surgery or gender affirming care or whatever. So why is it that you today can draw a conclusion that was the same conclusion in the 50s that you disagree with, that trans kids are being influenced societal to become trans? It seems to be a glaring contradiction in logic.
It's not just...
Wait, Ollie London isn't Korean? No, I know he's very convincing, but he's actually, his last name betrays him. He's Londonian. Yeah.
Ethan, there's now over 60 pediatric gender clinics that have opened within the last 15 years across the US. They weren't there before, so they are profiting from this. They're opening clinics because they know they can profit.
Yeah.
But when they push,
Yeah. It's really fucked up that there is psychiatric help for or some kind of help for example, people with autism. The number of kids with autism is skyrocketed. I wonder why that's happening. Maybe it's because we have better detection measurements, and also on top of that, we have a better understanding of how to allow people on the autism spectrum disorder to coexist in a normal way with the rest of society.
Why is
no, it can't be that. It must mean something
result
different.
Of it becoming more acceptable in society. It's the same curve, right? Same curve.
It's a huge curve, and it's really in the last 5 years since TikTok came about. We're seeing so many. There's about 2.2 billion views.
What does it matter how they become aware of it? I'm telling you, it's the same curve.
What I'm trying to tell you is that there are influences now that didn't exist 10 years
Like
ago
what?
that are pushing kids. So, for instance, TikTok. There's about 2.2.
So TikTok is turning.
It's like, Ollie, you thought you were trans. Like, the fuck do you mean, dumbass? Like, you did it before
movies.
TikTok.
It was hippie movements. That wasn't accessible to the generation before them. I don't see the difference.
What I'm saying is that kids are being exposed to influences that they didn't have before.
Same in the 50s.
Kids are being on. Sorry?
The same in the 50s. The kids who were coming out as gay were also exposed to things that weren't accessible to generations before them.
Well, I don't agree with that. They didn't have phones back then. Kids are now being pushed trends, and the AI algorithm recognizes a kid's vulnerabilities.
Well, music, popular music.
Music.
Pop music pop music was something that was rock and roll was something that was new back then. So
no, correct. And you could also argue that in the 80s, more people came out because music like George Michael was, and songs about freedom and stuff.
So then why are you
out
concluding that TikTok is making people trans? I don't understand the logic. You just contradicted yourself.
No. What I'm saying is in the last 5 years, there is an increase in gender clinics opening because they are exploiting these children that are being pushed trends. There's a lot of lobby groups, Ethan. The Human Rights Campaign is a massive lobby group. They're going around.
Ollie, you were trans before TikTok.
I've struggled with gender dysphoria for all of my life.
Before TikTok.
Correct. But my identity struggles came about because I was using social media too much. And
Ollie, you were born in 1990. You're not that much younger than me. When I grew up, there was no social media. I don't believe you probably had social media until you were in your 20s, well into your 20s.
Yeah, correct. And the reason I struggled with my identity was because of bullying in childhood. But then I only transitioned as an adult.
But bullying in childhood, we established from the report that you told me to read that bullying in childhood results in less people transitioning.
Ethan's like, your bullying didn't take, Ollie. You still went trans, brother.
The study you sent me about bullying, the conclusion was that bullying results in less people transitioning.
Ollie, it didn't take. What happened?
It's a result of social media. Well, you didn't have social media. Then you said it was a result of bullying. But this study you told me to read says bullying reduces the amount of people who transition. So how is it that you were trans before, outside of all of these influences that are turning people trans?
Well, firstly, I'm an individual, so I'm one person. So my experience is not reflective of every single person that becomes trans out there. But the thing is, I became trans as an adult because I really struggled with my identity throughout my whole life. And yes, I did get bullying. Every case is different as well. Some people are bullied because of their gender identity. Some people are not. So every single case is different. But the reason I became trans was, you follow my journey, the Korean stuff. That was me trying to find myself and trying to, fit in because I hated the way I looked.
If your journey is a personal one, which I totally understand, then what gives you the right to project your personal experience onto others?
Well, I speak to detransitioners every day. I speak to parents. I speak to women.
So that assumes a bias, Ollie. You're talking all day to detransitioners. We've also established, because I think, like studies, or I don't know if we decided, I think you said you like studies, because 27 of them made a consensus that 99% of people that transition don't regret it. So if you spend all day talking to the 1% that do regret it, don't you believe that underlies a bias?
Well, no, I don't believe it because I talk to all sorts of people. I talk to parents that have trans kids and, they're trying to navigate through that. And the general consensus with everyone I speak to, because I'm not right wing or left wing. I'm just very much in the center. I'm just trying to help people using my platform to try and help people.
You're not right wing or left wing. You're just insane.
We shouldn't be doing this to kids, and there generally is a concerted push over the last 5 years to medically transition children. If kids want to experiment, if a girl wants to be a tomboy, nobody has a problem with that. If they want to become trans as an adult, that's on them. But the issue that I talk about every day, I talk with parents, I talk with all these detransitions, is when this happens to kids. That's the issue I'm speaking about.
Right, but that's
not about
rare.
people being trans.
Let me ask you another question, just to pivot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the people that would say Ollie London is
this is what I was talking about.
Willing to do anything for attention. You have probably some kind of, I don't want to diagnose you, I'm not a psychiatrist, but there is some craving for attention, clearly, right? Good or bad. I mean, you said about like Korean, you said your pronouns were Korean, you said you were going to get your penis size reduced so that you could look more, you could be a more authentic Korean. I mean, these are not serious things. You seem to be a provocateur. Is it possible that you are participating in this right-wing grift because one, it's making you a lot of money, and two, it's getting you a lot of attention? Is that possible that you actually don't care and that your beliefs are empty? Is that possible?
No, absolutely not. So when I struggled with my identity for years, I generally was struggling and I was lashing out at bullies. And the more I would get bullied online by YouTubers and people on TikTok, the more I would act crazy because I was trying to feel validated and loved. And it was very unhealthy.
The conservative movement has offered you quite an open hand. They're very glad to be using you as a mouthpiece against trans people. So it must feel good to be being accepted from somebody, even if it is at the detriment of many people who are at risk, trans people. It must feel nice to have people supporting you.
No, it's nothing to do with that at all. I could have easily continued doing K-pop. I could have focused on TikTok, which, I used to really enjoy doing TikTok. I'm not the best singer. I like to make fun, entertaining videos. I could have stuck with that. In actual fact, when I detransitioned, I lost so many brand deals. I lost all my invites to New York Fashion Week. I was front row every season.
But now you're on Tucker Carlson.
No, he wasn't. When was he? What? No.
Rest in peace to the GOAT.
That never happened.
Yeah, he was the original GOAT. But no, it's nothing to do with that. No.
So you say it's not possible that you are just doing this for attention. If we go back, here's a recording of you saying that you're using the BLM movement for attention and for cameos. Here, listen.
Millions. So it's basically every time I do a music video, it's like, if it's $1 million, it's £1,000. So, if I just keep releasing music videos, that's like enough. And then also because I've been a lot on Twitter, there's been so many people talking about me on Twitter because I'm supporting the Black Lives Matter and protests and stuff. So I had 200,000 views on the video. So because of that as well, I'm getting a lot of requests. So it's just,
is he getting fucked right here? What is this noise?
In the news, on TV and stuff, because the more exposure I have, if I'm trending on Twitter or whatever on TV, then the more cameos I get. So yeah,
so here you say you're supporting BLM to stay relevant and because it gets you more cameos.
What the fuck is that? What is that? What is that?
Since you went right wing.
Well, firstly, that audio was from a number of years ago. It was.
How did they record this? He's like panting.
It was completely uncredible. And just basically desperate for attention.
It's your voice, correct?
It's my voice, but it was edited deceptively to try and make.
Oh my God! Is it because his nose is fucked up? He can't fucking breathe normally.
So I'm not doing any of this. What I'm doing now is to try and help people. Previously, Ethan, I'll admit it. Previously, I had some very unhealthy behavior.
Deceptive. I'm open to hearing you out. How is it deceptive?
I'm explaining. So, previously I had unhealthy behavior where I was generally like thinking, oh, how many likes can I get? How many views can I get? Because I was in a really crazy mental health place. And, the more surgery I would get,
people saying he was walking or telling on themselves. I'm sorry. Normal walking does not lead you to breathe that way, okay, while you're talking.
Ethan,
are you joking?
You're on the show.
No, if I wanted to get attention and stuff, I would stick to doing TikToks. I would stick to doing my K-pop music videos.
You're getting a lot more attention right now. I mean, you're getting a lot of attention right now. In fact, you wrote a whole damn book about it, Gender Madness.
Well, what I'm doing now is because I've actually come to a realization that I have had some very unhealthy behaviors in the past, and I'm trying to remedy that. Because I can't sleep at night when I think, have I done something bad? Have I been a bad influence? So I'm actually trying to remedy that and devote my time to
I hate to tell you,
activism.
if that's what you're concerned about, you're going to feel really bad when your next phase comes around and you realize that you were the mouthpiece for really hateful people.
Ethan, it's not a phase, and I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally
it's not
just
a phase,
trying to speak up about issues that I have finally woken up to see what's going on in the world.
It seems to me, Ollie, that if we look at all of your different iterations of your personality, the one consistent thing is a need for attention.
Well, you could say that about Trisha Paytas, who was your best friend and you used to do a podcast.
Oh, I do say that. I mean, I would say that about Trisha Paytas, sure.
Yeah, what?
Are you like
Trisha Paytas? She had different identities, but she had a wake-up call, and then she realized that, she could be an influence to others, and she's really a positive gal. She's doing amazing things at the moment, and I had a wake-up call.
Trisha was a chicken nugget, I believe. Do you empathize with that, Ollie, as a former trans person?
Ethan, I'm vegetarian, so I wouldn't empathize with her being
So you're saying you're nugget. Like, and congratulations on that. We support that. Ollie, do you believe you're like Trisha Paytas?
No, not at all. I'm not comparing myself
okay.
to her. I'm just saying that she had a lot of identity struggles. She had some unhealthy behaviors. I had some unhealthy behaviors. I struggled, but I'm remedying that now. I'm working hard every
Like
day
Trisha.
to try and be a better person, to try and help people. And that's what I'm focused on. So people can
Good.
call me what they want. I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally trying to help
Okay,
make
let's
the world a
pivot.
better place.
Let's pivot. This came about when you found God, right? You and you can fill in the blanks here. You were confused. You were a transgender woman. You were selling kids' lunch boxes depicting a trans woman on it. That's pretty low by your own definition. And then you were walking around and you found God. You entered a church and then you realized, hey, this is a cool vibe, maybe.
Well, no, actually, before that, I started to go to therapy. So basically, I lost a lot of my friends. People thought I was really like crazy, and I was very mentally unwell with all of these different crazy identities that I struggled with. So I actually started therapy first, and I started going to sessions twice a week. And then they actually told me, you need to speak about this. You need to find a community that's accepting, non-judgmental, and kind.
So hold on, your therapist told you that you're not trans?
No, my therapist didn't tell me I wasn't trans, but they said if I'm having issues and struggling with who I am, perhaps I should find a community that's very welcoming and might make me feel like I can belong. Take some time off social media. So they didn't tell me not to be trans. It's nothing to do with that. So they literally told me to try and find myself.
So you took a break off social media, and then you took your time to find God and find your new self.
I stopped spending hours and hours.
These weenies always have the same story.
Which was, messing up my mind, and I actually left my phone.
It's so stupid. It's so cliche. It's so boring. Like, you're creative enough to like come up with the most unhinged thing to do to your own fucking body. You can't come up with a better a better backstory. Like, it's always got to be at the top of the hour. I saw a 3-minute ad break, and all of a sudden I realized like I'm not subscribed. I will be seeing this 3-minute ad break, and also I'm not Korean. I'm a white man. It's like fucked up. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Don't be like Ollie London. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe and avoid the fucking ads.
So you went from a month.
Speed Racer, thank you for the 5, get the subs. So hey Bozo, thank you for the 5, get the subs. Allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. You too can avoid it if you get gifted a sub. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
When you said get off, take your time and talk and figure out who you are, that all happened within a month.
No, actually, since I originally transitioned, I felt great for a couple of months. And then I really started to question it. I started to think, okay, I can even do more surgery to make myself physically become a transgender woman, or I can take a step back. So I was having a lot of thoughts of regret, but it was too late at that point. I'd already done facial feminization. I'd already changed myself. I was very confused. So I'd been having those thoughts for a number of months. And then within a month from that particular picture being taken, I actually detransitioned.
So tell me about finding God. Tell me about when you were in the church and you had like an awakening.
Well, I'd lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of loved ones because they thought my behavior was very unhealthy. And, it was a now or never moment. I could have continued down a very destructive path, destructive for myself and people around me, and destructive for, people that see me online. I think I was, not a good role model, and I deeply regret that. So,
were you trying to be a role model? I find that interesting.
No, well, at the time in my delusion, I thought I was a role model for people that liked K-pop and wanted to be a K-pop star. So then I started going to church to try and take some time out to think about my life and think, what is the next step for me? And then, after spending some time going to church sessions and sermons, it made me realize, just try to find acceptance with who I am and stop doing all this craziness and try to get back to the real me. And that's the most important thing.
I've heard you mention the real you being a British man. If you talk to other people, I think they might say the real them. And as I think you would agree, people are born gay. They don't choose to be gay. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then why?
And I agree. And I believe that some people generally feel trans since they're born. I do believe that.
So God made them that way, right? So God would have made them that way.
I just believe that some people are born as trans, but my issue is kids being indoctrinated to transition when they didn't think about that before. So however you're born, that's the way you feel, then that's okay. But I don't believe in people that wouldn't think about these things being indoctrinated to change.
If you were British, you would do anything to escape it too. That's pretty funny. I mean, look, I'll say something positive. Ollie London is awesome because normally there's a lot of fucking freak-like individuals out there that you would want to be making fun of, right? Openly. But you kind of can't because, you know, you don't really know their background. You don't know their backstory. What if they've undergone some hardship or something like that? Whereas with Ollie London, he's an open book. So it's like open season, really. Like you can do whatever the fuck you want. He's just such a fucking cartoonishly monstrous individual that like you don't really ever get an opportunity to just like unwind and unload on a motherfucker because they're so demonstrably dedicated to being as harmful as possible to others. It's great.
Up in your interviews, God makes people trans. I find that to be.
I never said God made people trans. I never said God didn't make people trans.
Does God make people gay? Does God make people gay?
I'm just saying that people are born in different ways.
Because you said you were born gay, and so
I was born a man, and then as a teenager I became gay. So it didn't happen from birth, but I struggled with I was very feminine. I struggled with my identity as a kid.
Was that your choice or God's choice?
You know, there's a lot of influences that influence people in life. You know,
God is all powerful, right?
No, perhaps I wouldn't have turned out the way I did if I wasn't bullied, or perhaps
is God all powerful?
Yeah, God is very powerful. Yes, absolutely.
All powerful.
But
is God all powerful?
God is all powerful, but there are.
So then He made you gay and trans people trans.
No, there are.
Why would God all powerful make someone so confused that they wanted to be trans? Well, actually, logically, it doesn't even make sense. If God is all powerful and He creates a being, and then this being lives through their lives, and then says, "Oh, I want to transition." God made them that way. If God is all powerful, it's all part of His design. God wants people to be trans.
Well, there are societal, environmental
God created society.
I'm sorry. Kaya is so dumb. She just put her entire paw in the water bowl before realizing she put her entire paw in the water bowl and pulling it out. It's just so unrelated. Ideology. But
what I'm saying is a lot of these people would not have felt this way when they're born, but they're being pushed by society.
God created society
to think that they're going to transition.
Do you believe that the Bible is against transgenderism, or what's your thought on that as a I guess a newborn Christian?
Well, you know, the Bible was written a long time ago, and there are things in the Bible, such as in the Old Testament, that aren't relevant to today's society. We know that. So we have to adapt what was written 2,000 years ago to the modern day. But you know, I'm not one for policing how adults live their lives. But I think, you know, transgenderism wasn't in the Bible because there weren't trans people visible back then. Of course, no. Look, I've even got this in my book. Even there was a Roman emperor that was trans. He used to dress as a woman. So we know there's instances, but I'm just saying in the Bible.
Did society influence him? Did society influence the emperor to be trans?
Well, I wasn't alive then.
Well,
but,
hold on. You wrote about it in your book. God dang, man.
Yes, but so there were some Roman scholars that were around at the time, and taken from their writings, he used to dress as a woman. He used to act like a woman, and his wife would have to call him ma'am. Now, I wasn't around back then, so I don't know the exact details, but he thought he was a woman. So, you know, maybe he could have been born like that. Some people are born like that, and they generally think that they're in the wrong body. So
you don't have an opinion on if the Bible...
TikTok made the Romans gay, Ethan. Duh. What the fuck do you mean? God, it's so simple.
The Bible was written a long time ago.
Yeah, then why, but surely, I mean, you know, why use the Bible as a guide for anything in your life if it was written so long ago? I don't understand that point.
Because, Ethan, there's many teachings in the Bible that are very, very positive, you know, about love and acceptance and kindness, and trying to help humanity.
I wish you were there to dunk on him.
It was written
Not
a long time
really.
ago, so like I said,
Ethan's doing a great job.
There's also a story about this, like, sisters raping their dad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Old Testament
don't like that
has
one.
things.
Okay, I like your optimism. So
I'm saying the Old Testament has things.
We're not doing the Old Testament. Okay, cool. So we don't believe... Okay. I heard you, when you're on these shows, I noticed you talk a lot about this specific story of Jesus that inspired you, how he helped the lepers when no...
Wait, great question to follow up here is like, oh, so you don't like the Old Testament? Do you think it's appropriate to teach the Old Testament to children?
Right.
Well, I thought it was a good analogy because I felt like for many years I was rejected by society. I was treated like an outcast just like the leper. So I thought it was a good analogy to me, actually.
I agree. It is a really good analogy. What other Bible stories do you like?
So there's the tale of the lost sheep in Luke, the parable of the lost sheep, where a sheep goes missing from a flock of 100, and the shepherd decides, should he stay with the flock or should he go and help this sheep? And he actually goes into the wilderness to help the sheep, because he realizes that every sheep is one of God's children, so he needs to help them and be responsible for them.
Which verse was that? I want to read that one.
It's in Luke and Matthew.
Luke and Matthew? Do you know the number?
I can't give you the exact chapter, but you can look it up.
Is there any other Bible stories you like? I'm looking for good recommendations.
Yeah, there's also when Jesus met a Roman officer, and this Roman officer had a lot of power, but instead of, abusing that power like many Roman officers did, he was actually kind to his servants. He had servants that were captured from battles, and they were working in his house, but he treated them the same he treated everyone else. So that's another great analogy that, Jesus looked at people and helped people that helped other people. And, kindness is very important.
Do you know the verse on that one so I can reference it?
I can't quote it off the top of my head.
You don't know where that one is?
Well, there's a lot of verses in the Bible, there's a lot of chapters, but I can tell you specific stories that I like.
Okay. I was just testing you, Ollie. You know what I mean?
I know.
I was just trying to test you. I was trying to do a fast one on you.
This
Yeah,
is
but I
very
want to
good.
ask.
Look, this is a really good technique that Ethan engages in, not to be all JCS, but what he's doing is like he's openly admitting that he's behaving in like a manner, and that he tested Ollie, he tested his interlocutor, and giving confidence to his interlocutor by saying like, "Hey, I'm rewarding you. You actually did a good job. You withstood my test, and you won." This makes the interlocutor feel confident, and also feels like inadvertently they are on the side of the interviewer.
A cardinal that I believe he died earlier this year, an Australian cardinal that was accused of some horrific things, and there's a lot of that going on as well. So that needs to be addressed, and I will call that out as well as calling out drag shows that are sexualizing kids, because all forms of child abuse, whether it's in a church, whether it's in a religious organization, or whatever, is wrong.
If you had kids, would you feel more comfortable leaving them at a drag time, story time, or with a clergy member?
If I had kids, I would actually be with them all the time. I wouldn't leave them anywhere.
You would never leave them?
No, because, as a parent,
hypothetically, you don't have to do it. I'm just talking hypothetically. Would you feel more comfortable leaving them with a clergyman, a member of the Catholic Church, or at the the drag queen story time hour?
Again, neither. I wouldn't want to leave kids anywhere.
It's just a theoretical. It's just theoretical.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, even if it was, leaving a kid.
Right, but you have to choose one. Which one do you trust more?
See, I'm a helicopter parent, and you're watching exactly why being a helicopter parent is bad. She saw my mom walk past. She got excited and was like, "I want to go out there. That's my human chew toy, please." And now she's behaving in a manner that I don't like.
I have to leave my kids either with the clergyman or at the drag show. I don't have a choice. Something crazy's happening. They're right next to each other. It says, where do I leave my kids? Where do you think Barry should leave his kids?
Well, again, I wouldn't want to leave kids anywhere.
But Barry doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have a choice. He's in this horrible predicament.
But Ethan, I'm not Barry. I can't answer that question.
Well, he's asking you for advice. Quick, Ollie, where should I put my kids?
You put me on the spot. I wouldn't, as an adult, I would say
Ollie,
to Barry.
Oh, sorry.
I find it very concerning that you are hesitant to even answer that question.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter whether it's a Catholic church, a drag show, or even an after-school club where it's, the teachers aren't present. I wouldn't leave the kid anywhere. I wouldn't leave the kid at some weekend activity, like a sports activity. I think the parents should always be there.
Right.
So it's not a question of a church versus, whatever. It's a question of just in general, parents should always be with their kids.
But that's not reasonable. Parents can't always be with their kids. I mean, that's...
No, of course. Of course it's not always reasonable, but I'm just saying in an ideal scenario, because, look, there are cases that happen, many cases that don't happen, but I'm just saying it's you've always got to be careful because there are people out
Well,
there
let's
that are
assume that you're a good
opportunists.
Christian and you say I'd leave them with the Catholic Church. We've talked about the number of kids who are doing irreversible transitioning in America. It's very, very small. We're talking like 250 a year by my estimate. And that's based on government data. I know you dispute it. You know, there's a recent report that came out in France, and the reason I bring this one up is just because it's the most recent and comprehensive one. It's quite disturbing. This came out, I believe, in 2021, called the Independent Commission on Sexual Abuse in the Church. It was a huge government commission to look at this openly and honestly and try to figure out what's going on. 2,900 and 3,200 clergy members were involved in sexual abuse of minors during that period in France. Okay. It's estimated that they abused around 330,000 kids. Now, if you do a percentage of that, and this is really kind of surprising to me, and tell me what you think. Assuming there are around 15,000 to 20,000 clergy members in France at any given time, the percentage of clergymen involved in abuse of minors would be 15 to 20%.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrifying. And also, there's in Ireland as well. There was a lot of abuse that was covered up, and no, it doesn't matter.
Seems like that affects more kids than
no, that is equally wrong. Whoever exposes kids, it doesn't matter whether it's a church or not.
Raping a kid is equally as wrong as going to a drag show.
Look, it's equally wrong if someone abuses a kid. So that's what I'm saying here.
Okay.
So if a kid is being abused,
is there any history of a child being abused at a drag show?
When drag shows are sexually explicit,
is that the same as raping them?
That is also child abuse. I'm just saying, if a drag queen performs a sexually explicit act in front of kids, that is abuse.
If we're worried about the kids, we're looking. You're a member of an organization, which, by my estimate, which again, it's just an estimate, but 15 to 20% of the clergy members are sexual predators. Why is it that you're focused on the drag shows and not the Catholic Church, when per capita and the volume is way more in the Catholic Church?
Well, the specific organization, Gays Against Groomers, is focused solely on the issue of indoctrinating children, exposing them to sex. If it was called, Catholics Against Groomers, that would be focused on that issue. But it's a specific issue. Not every organization can focus on every issue, but their job is to expose a specific issue within a specific group. And granted, like you said, there are in France, there was in Ireland some horrific cases. And, it's the job of the Pope and the Catholic Church to vigorously investigate that, because it's disgusting for any person, whether a clergy member or not, to abuse a child. It's absolutely wrong, and it should be investigated to the full. And every single victim deserves justice.
Me a little disingenuous when you're going to point, let's say, you've got the whole hotel, a whole building, it's on fire, but but in the backyard, there's like a doghouse that's on fire. There's no dog in it, by the way. It's just a small structure. And you're telling the fire department, we need to put out the doghouse fire. Don't worry about the fucking massive apartment building that's on fire. Let's put out the doghouse. To me, that seems like you're focused on the wrong thing. What's the point of focusing on the doghouse when the whole building is on fire, right?
Well, no, I talk up on my Twitter about all forms of abuse. If there's somebody that abuses a kid, if there's a news story, I do share on that. So, but I'm just saying the specific organization, Gays Against Groomers, focuses on a specific subject. But you're right, all forms of abuse are incredibly wrong, and they should also get light shed on them, 100%.
Are you interested in firearm deaths of kids? Because that's the leading death, actually, of kids in America today.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrific. What we see every day with schools being shut up, it's absolutely horrifying.
Right, but somehow the drag show.
Children should be. Ethan, we're on the same page.
I just don't understand why the drag show is more pertinent, because you're doing a tour, right? You're doing all the right wings. You even wrote a book, for Pete's sake, called Gender Madness. Why is this topic so important when we're talking about protecting kids, and there's just these incredibly more pertinent issues, firearm deaths, the leading cause of death in kids, and you're talking about an organization with 15 to 20% of sexual predators, by my estimate. I just don't understand the focus on the drag show. Don't you think that the conservative movement is overly focused on transgender issues?
Well, I mean, there's you've just highlighted there are so many different issues in the world, and I'm trying to focus on one specific.
What is this interview? Beanie Dude is rapid fire and gotcha scenarios to try and catch this dude off guard. It's really inane. Whatever your view on the topic is. No, I think he's doing a great job for that particular reason. Actually, as a matter of fact, like it comes across as gotcha questions because, again, it comes across as gotcha questions because he's doing a good job. The only reason why you're saying it's gotcha questions is because it's doing a good job and you kind of like don't like his vibes. You might even end up agreeing with the other party a little bit, but you can't find yourself agreeing with that party because he's like very clearly delusional. That's the issue. That's why you're saying like, oh, it's a gotcha question. No, he's just doing a good job.
Odd. Why are they all so focused on trans issues?
Well, I mean, they talk about a lot of other issues as well, but what's happening at the moment is there is a lot of
right. They talk about a lot of issues, but I think we can all agree that that's kind of the most pertinent for them, right? Even in polls, even in polls, people say trans issues is the most important to them of conservatives. Why is that?
Well, I mean, correct, because it's
great because Ethan does a really good job of like he is the representation of like libtard politics, right? And even as like the representation of that kind of politics, like he does a really fucking good job of ridiculing his opponents by simply asking questions while also even admitting his own bias in many different respects, even saying like, oh, well, I was trying to catch you and you did a really good job of like avoiding it. You know what I mean? Like he does a very good job of like just winding down your opponent and actually offering them enough rope to hang themselves with. Not in the way that like people say that Joe Rogan does, but actually doing that. Because Joe Rogan doesn't have that ultimate goal of like giving their opponent enough rope to like hang themselves. Joe Rogan has a very clear-cut bias, and it's on the it's on the side of the people that he's having on, like the right-wing agitators.
So how do you if I haven't mentioned it, how do you justify this?
I've already gone through it.
Oh, we have talked about it. Okay. I'm just curious. Let me look at the photos. I mean, this is definitely for kids. It's pretty small. It can't even fit like a little bread in it, barely. And like, look how, I mean, these blueberries look monsters next to that. That's certainly for kids, right? Yeah. It's too small for an adult. What's that?
No, it's for anyone that likes K-pop.
For anyone that likes K-pop. But grown-ups.
Can you explain to me who's going to school under the age of, over the age of 18, like using a lunchbox?
Grown-ups like that.
Wait, you would buy a lunchbox with a trans woman on it? Why would you do that?
It's a K-pop. It's an image of a K-pop. I would buy it because it's cute. I like K-pop stuff. I love Korean culture. It's a cute K-pop lunchbox.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are watching, that was Cutie Cinderella.
What do you mean the real issues? No, but this is a real issue. Kids are suicidal because of their gender dysphoria. I mean, that's a real issue.
But Ethan, what I'm trying to say is if you put a vulnerable kid that's already struggling with a mental health on very high doses of hormones.
Maddie Healy is a fan of certain center-left podcasts, including center-left commentators such as myself. Center-left podcasts such as Cumtown, and center-left podcasters and broadcasters such as myself.
Has it ever happened? Has a child transitioning ever saved a child's life?
Well, you need to address the mental health issues. If a kid is
has it ever saved a child's life?
Or did I say Cumtown? Yeah. Fuck, Cumtown is not center-left. Cumtown is actually progressive left. This is the new show, the Adam Friedland show, which is totally unaffiliated with the Cumtown. What is Cumtown? I don't even know what Cumtown is. I fucked it up. I'm so sorry.
Transitioning saved their life. Even one of them. Why would you support a movement that outlaws it? You support legislation that makes it illegal. Why is that?
Because firstly, these are kids. They cannot consent to this. They do not understand the long-term consequences. But you don't look at what happens later down the line, Ethan, like 6 years down the line.
We got to stick on this point. You said that transitioning has saved a child's life. Let's forget about all the other static. Let's forget about all the other static. Why is it that you would want to outlaw a medical procedure that saved a child's life. That's
Because
not kind,
it's-
is it?
No, you have to support the kids' mental health, but you cannot put them on hormones.
Do
or
you
give them
believe that it
gender
should be
reassignment
illegal?
surgery.
Do you believe that it should be illegal for if the kid is going to kill himself, as you admitted, the kid, it saved the child's life. You said that. So you believe
I'm
this
saying
kid
that-
should kill themselves rather than transition?
Absolutely not. Don't try to put words in my mouth.
Well, I'm
Kids need
just
mental
okay.
health
No,
support.
hey, I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth. I'm just trying to reconcile. You are saying on one hand that transitioning saved the kid's life, and also saying that transitioning shouldn't be allowed until they're 18 plus. So
I'm
this
just
child
saying,
has
you're
no
talking-
recourse other than to kill themselves in this hypothetical situation we've created.
In this hypothetical situation, instead of that, actually take the kids to somewhere that's a safe place where they can be surrounded by therapists.
Right, they do
and
that.
people.
But again, I don't want to focus on the static because this is a real situation. And let's say, even if it's just one kid, again, let's stay focused here, Ollie. One kid saved his life. You're telling that kid you cannot get that procedure. That's correct?
I'm saying that kids can't consent to this. Kids need better mental health support. So there should be a focus on
18
mental
plus.
health
You're
support
saying this
rather
kid
than
cannot get the
medical
procedure that
transition.
saved his life. That's what you're
I'm
saying.
saying that it should. I'm saying that 18 plus for all procedures on kids because kids cannot consent. So they need mental health support instead.
Well, right. So the kid would kill himself.
No, you give the kid.
But then
mental
why
health
did you
support
say that
and
it
protect
saves
them.
kids' lives, Ollie? Don't you understand? You're not making
you
sense.
I'm saying that there will be some kids that may feel better and feel like their life
No,
has
no,
been
no,
saved
no, no,
after
no.
that. But
You agreed with me, Ollie, just a few minutes ago that transitioning has saved kids' lives.
like anything in life, it can save lives. But also, a lot of people
Like anything in
will
life?
become-
What does that mean?
A thing?
What
No,
else?
a lot of people will become suicidal later down the line because their body is completely messed up. There, so many different issues
He's
with their
like
health.
not suicidal now, which is really happening, but like, what about a hypothetical suicide later in life that hasn't happened that could happen potentially?
Consent. Kids
That's how we offset suicide.
Kids can't consent to anything. What are we doing? We're
correct.
not allowing them to. Kids can't consent to go to church. Kid can't consent to go to school. Kids can't consent to anything. We as parents make the best decision we can for the welfare of the kid. Don't you agree? I mean, this whole idea of consent is kind of moot when you consider all the things kids do in their lives every day.
Well, it's like a little kid that wants to be a dinosaur. Do you suddenly give him a surgery?
Do you
like a
think that
dinosaur?
wanting to be a
No.
dinosaur is comparable to gender dysphoria, which is a known medical condition?
I'm saying that some
You
kids go through
said
different
it's like
phases.
kids wanting to be dinosaurs, Ollie. I don't understand the comparison.
Well, no, it is. It's like some kids change their mind about certain things. They're not mature enough to make these decisions.
Do
So
you think
a kid might say
wanting to
their
be a
parents-
dinosaur is comparable to being trans?
I'm saying if a 10-year-old kid dresses up as a dinosaur every day, they tell their dad they're a tyrannosaurus.
Has that happened? Can you cite that happening?
You've been speaking about theoretical things. I'm speaking about
Well, no.
theoretical. I'm saying,
Well, we're talking about
would
theoretical.
you transition a
We're
child?
talking about theoretical situations, but they are real happening in the real world. There are kids whose lives are being saved because, and this is the small amount of kids who undergo it, very small amount, that do it under doctors' supervision and panels and stuff, that it's saving their lives. This is happening, okay? People are not, as far as I know, and maybe you can correct me, saying I'm a dinosaur, I need to transition into a dinosaur.
No, I'm saying, the kids want different things. They don't understand or
I
comprehend.
notice you're saying I'm saying a lot. You say things, but you don't like to stay accountable to it. You say, no, I'm saying this. No, I'm saying this. No, I'm saying this. Why won't you give me definitive answers?
Well, I'm equating it. You know what? It is the same. If a child wants to be a dinosaur, you don't cut off their
Okay, it's the same.
body part.
It's the
It's
same.
the same as being
Gender-
It's the same as medically transitioning a
Okay.
child and giving them
Good.
surgery. Mhm.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Gender dysmorphia is a known medical condition. Is there any literature about transitioning to be a dinosaur? Not that you know of. Right. But you said it's the same. But clearly it's not, right? Because
No, I'm equating.
transitioning's
a kid.
is
I'm
accepted by
equating
the...
a kid.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm equating a kid identifying in a different way. You don't just suddenly say, if a kid feels a certain way, oh, we're going to do this operation, we're going to give you hormones. Kids
Of
can't
course that
consent.
doesn't
If they
happen,
generally
Ollie.
feel like that their
That
whole
doesn't
life,
happen.
Do it as an adult.
That doesn't happen. You have a child who's experiencing gender dysmorphia so severe that they're going to kill themselves. Dysphoria, excuse me. They're undergoing panels and doctors and stuff. And this kid, we know, and this has happened, either we intervene or the child kills themselves. What's your decision?
Most kids grow out of gender
That's
dysphoria.
not what I asked. Why can't you answer? Most kids do not grow out of gender dysmorphia. Not only 99, that's a small number of them, and 99% who get the operations don't regret it. You have to answer this, Ollie. This is important. If there's a child that's going to kill itself unless it gets gender-affirming care, what is your decision? Let them
there's a study.
Give them the treatment or not.
This is a great try.
No, you give them mental health support instead. You do not.
No. That's not what I'm asking. If this kid is suicidal, which is a known phenomenon, this happens. Do you let them get the treatment, or do you make them wait till they're 18?
You give them other support instead. That's
so they kill
answer.
themselves.
No,
How is that kind,
Ollie?
How is that kind that you're letting children kill themselves instead of letting them get gender-affirming, life-saving care, which, by the way, happens only irreversible gender care, gender surgeries and stuff, only happens like 250 times a year.
No, it doesn't. It happens.
Well, you have no statistics to back that up.
Well, there's a clinic in Oregon. I can send you the statistics of. There's a clinic in Oregon that does at least 300 surgeries on kids a year. So that's just one clinic.
That's impossible. That's not true.
There's 60 clinics in the US that are pediatric.
Over years. Yes, 60 kids. Over years. So, but again, there's 50 million kids in America, Ollie. That's not a lot.
But I'm saying there's 60 gender clinics that are performing these surgeries every single week across the country. So look it up and see how many.
Let's say that of the 1,000, there's 10 kids who are going to kill themselves. Do we let them get this treatment or not?
Again, you give the kids mental health support.
You're choosing for them to kill themselves, Ollie.
No, I'm not. Don't try to say that.
But you are. But that's what you're saying, Ollie.
I'm not saying
that is what you're saying. You're denying them life-saving, gender-affirming care.
No, I'm saying give the kids mental health support.
You're saying use this avenue that doesn't work, that's not going to work to prevent you from killing yourself. You're telling them.
Also, gender affirming care is a part of a comprehensive healthcare solution.
You can only do the therapy that I approve of.
It's like saying, if let's say there's someone who's a schizophrenic, right? And the doctor is prescribing lithium. And Ollie's like, no lithium, only prayer and also whatever form of therapy he finds to be enough. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? It's just like, that's how comprehensive healthcare works. Sometimes you actually do medical intervention beyond just like therapy sessions.
The times it is reversible.
And lithium is for bipolar, sorry, not schizophrenia, right? Lithium is for bipolar disorder. I fucked it up.
Care under doctor supervision. You want this kid to kill themselves,
actually,
Ollie.
for both. I'm pretty sure lithium can be used for schizophrenia too. Mood regulation in general. That
you're a part of. You sold yourself out for some attention and some money, and you are dooming kids to kill themselves. How do you live with that? Before it was cute, silly stuff about transracial and PTS and pop stuff. And it was just silly nonsense about little racist stuff about Korean people having tiny penises.
Coming off.
But now you're actually delving into transphobic, violent transphobia that is going to result in kids dying. You're going to have to reckon with that, Ollie.
No, absolutely not. You're trying to paint me out as saying this.
I'm only saying what you said.
Cannot consent. No, Ethan.
Kids can't consent to anything.
Kids cannot consent to irreversible hormones or surgeries, Ethan.
Okay, a kid needs to get his leg removed because he has leg cancer. Should he be able to get the leg removed?
Well, if he has a cancer, yes.
Okay, so what's the fucking difference? He can't consent to have his leg removed. That's irreversible.
Well, many of these kids are being pushed into it. Many grow out of gender dysphoria. If you Google right now...
But I'm telling you, kids kill themselves if they don't get this treatment. In the rare case that it's that severe, about 250 a year.
Well, show me. Okay, pull up a case then.
I'm sure we can do that. That's not a problem. Give me 1 second.
Wait, what? Pull up a case?
Gender affirming care is mental health support.
What is Ollie gonna do?
There are other
What is
ways.
Ollie gonna do? Be like, actually, fuck that kid. Like
Psychiatry.
that kid had bad vibes. He should have killed himself. Like, is that what you're gonna do? He's like, give me an anecdote, please, so I can fucking rip it apart.
With
Like
dysmorphia
what?
is gender affirming care. Do you know more than Pediatrics Association and Psychiatrists Association?
Yeah, because all of these companies, they made $2.2 billion transitioning kids last year. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry with a lot of powerful.
So people make money from it. So therefore, we shouldn't let kids save their lives.
No, you can provide. I'm not going to keep going about this.
That's a great question. We'd like, okay, people make money off of fucking cancer treatment. No more chemotherapy. Sorry.
Reversible issues, and when they
You're right. We
adults,
should make it free. You're right. People shouldn't be charged for it.
I agree. Oh my God!
No.
He just shut the fuck.
I'm just not going to keep going on about the same thing, Ethan. I need to go anyway. It's quite late.
Ollie.
He just shut the fuck up. That's awesome.
I want to tell you something. You really have sold your soul in this one. You know what I mean? Like before it was
Ethan,
cute and innocent, but this new one is really sick. And I mean, the balls of you to sell a fucking lunch pail with a trans person on it while telling people that they're grooming kids. I mean, you're just a fucking hypocrite, dude.
Ethan, you said some horrific comments about Ben Shapiro saying that he should be gassed like in the Holocaust. So you shouldn't be.
I didn't say that. I said,
I'll
tell you exactly what I said. And how dare you say such a...
You said that.
I made a joke that he's perpetuating anti-Semitism, and therefore, if there's another, then he can go, and I'd be happy to go right behind him. I am Jewish though, so chill out.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying it's not something to joke about. So when you're trying to criticize for me for certain things, you've also said some things that are very harmful as well.
Well, hold on.
You should also take accountability.
So you're admitting that what you say about trans people is offensive?
No, I'm talking about
how
my
is it
past
comparable to what I
have
said?
been harmful. I'm talking about my past behaviors, have been harmful.
I'm not talking about your past behavior. I'm talking about what you're doing now that endangers children because you're trying to make a quick
I'm helping
buck.
people. I'm helping people, Ethan.
You're helping Tucker Carlson spread propaganda that's going to kill trans people. And you're selling a book called Gender Madness. After you, how long have you been a man? How long have you been detransitioned? And you're writing a book already?
It's been 7 months.
7 months, Ollie? I mean, you were trans for years. How are you going to spend 7 months as a man and then presume to tell people how to live their lives?
Also, we got more Tucker Carlson leaks. Holy fuck. More Tucker Carlson leaks coming from Fox News.
So long.
Yeah, but the book is about how I got to where I was, what led me to that, and how people struggle with different identities. It's actually a self-help book, so it's very positive, empowering about different ways people can help themselves.
Gender Madness. Here's your best friend, Jamie Mitchell, who's the founder of Gays Against Groomers, supporting... Well, here, just watch.
What's happening now would make, I think Joseph Mengele, I believe that was his name, the Nazi doctor. This puts him to shame. Do
you believe that's an appropriate analogy?
Well, Joseph Mengele tortured and performed horrific medical procedures on kids. What
Jewish kids
today,
during the Holocaust.
He also committed a genocide against trans people, by the way.
He committed a genocide against trans people as well.
He killed a lot of
jokes
LGBT
about the
people.
Holocaust.
That shit's so fucked up. Actually, that's one of the most nefarious and awful ways that these pieces of shit
lab
talk.
rats for this sick ideology. And
he sounds
they're
like
full
him
steam
right now.
Like
any abuse of kids, any experimentation on kids is wrong.
And a threat to that.
Ollie London's like, leukemia, let them fucking die. Okay? Ollie London is like, leukemia, let's let them kill children instead. Any medical experimentation in regards to like a cure, fucking kill them, dude. What do you mean?
Do you believe that doctors are performing Nazi-like experiments on trans kids?
Doctors are experimenting on kids.
To what end? What is the experiment?
Any medical mutilation on kids is bad. And
An
the
experiment
long-term
underlies
data,
a thesis. What is their thesis?
I'm saying there's no long-term data on how does this affect a
Yes,
kid's
there
body
is.
20 years
99%
down the
don't
line.
regret it.
How
27
does this
say.
affect a kid 20 years down the line?
They're
Because we see
happy.
issues.
99% are happy.
We see issues with their
27
bone
studies.
density. Look at the study by Dr. Bradley, Canadian. She was the pioneer for performing these gender-affirming cares on kids.
What if I
since
told you Dr.
1970.
Bradley was a quack?
Well, they're all quacks. Anyone that
Oh.
experiments on kids in the first place is a quack.
All right, Ollie. We're gonna anyway. Thank you for spending your time. I do appreciate you coming on.
No, it's good to talk.
It was something.
I think he
But
ripped
I
them. I think he ripped Ollie, but notice how Ollie, like I said, is a more like Ollie London looks weird and is not like the best person as far as like the best speaker. But given the area that he occupies, it's very hard to go up against like transphobic motherfuckers because you're going up against a person that is like pretty much borderline schizophrenic, right? Like you're talking to someone with mental delusions and they are going to constantly pull you into like their delusions and have you address their delusions. And it's like, well, I can't argue against your own fucking world, man. Like you made up half this shit. It's literally like arguing against flat earthers, right? That's how it works. Like if your grift has no basis in reality and it's just like inherently harmful and all it is there to do is just like, push more harmful propaganda, it's very difficult to argue against them, right? Like he basically made up, child experiments happening on children that's like bad. He lied about a whole bunch of shit. But even then, that's why I said it's like very difficult. That's the same thing conservatives say about us leftists, though. I mean, it doesn't matter. The conservatives can say whatever the fuck they want. We're currently talking about conservatives and their mania. It's difficult to argue against transphobic people like this because they're in a totally different league. It's like arguing against a flat earther. They're going to give you junk science. You need to know the junk science and address it. If you haven't studied the junk science, it makes it very difficult. Same with like super transphobic people. So even someone as stupid as Ollie London can come across as like coherent in some ways, even though he's like insane, right? And I think that's what happened here with Ethan. But Ethan still did a very good job of addressing a lot of the most unhinged parts of this conversation. It's of course going to be like less, I guess, content and less punchy than, for example, debating that other cult guy. But he did a great job. He did a fucking fantastic job. This is why ContraPoints isn't speaking on trans issues anymore. She's tired of talking to brick walls to try and spread her message to all us NPCs in the world, all the way back from Blair White incident to currently the Megan incident. It's just awfulness. I don't know what the current Megan incident is, but I know why ContraPoints doesn't talk about trans issues. I can tell you why. Because she's trans. And like it or not, and I'm sorry, get mad at me if you want, but trans people are ruthless to other trans people. Like, trans people are ultimately much more understanding and much more forgiving of cis people because they recognize that the normative position is that cis people are transphobic. So when you have a cis person who's not transphobic, but like will fuck up every now and then, trans people will oftentimes still look at it with like a very critical lens, but are way more forgiving. ContraPoints, on the other hand, comes across as the authority of trans issues to a broader cis audience, and a lot of people get mad at that. You know what I mean? And this doesn't mean that like ContraPoints hasn't done anything cringe or bad or wrong. Every now and then, she'll appear on a fucking Hillary Clinton video, and I'm like, wow, that's not great. But ultimately, I think she's great. You know what I mean? She has disagreements on MB stuff or MB related issues, I think. But like I said, ultimately, you got to look at the broader. You have to look at the broader content that this person has provided. Anyway, I don't want to get too super deep into like trans issues, especially because like I feel as though there are a lot of like it feels like you're monolithizing trans people like in that analysis, not gonna lie. Yeah, a little bit. But I do, I mean, what? If there's one monolith that actually absolutely sticks amongst trans people, is that trans people love fucking yelling at other trans people for having, you know, like minor disagreements over trans issues. Is that not true? Go to any trans space and you know, bring up one point of contention and see how that works. And on top of that, I think trans people, this is from my own personal, you know, observation as a cis person. Trans people are a little bit more understanding of cis people than they are of trans people, other trans people, trans content creators in general. Yeah, trans people are very leftist, and a lot of them are. So that's not that surprising. Tonight I did an interview on the Far Left H3 podcast, because I believe in the importance of educating people about what is going on in regards to the gender affirming care industry, even if they're pro-gender affirming care. Out of all the interviews I've ever done, this was the rudest and most unprofessional person I've ever spoken to. The whole time I was interrupted. Dude, why is it that every person goes to Twitter to cry after they get fucking owned by Ethan? Also, Far Left H3 podcast. The whole time I was interrupted while the host tried to twist words into my mouth by saying that because I'm against children being medically transitioned that I support child suicide for not affirming their gender identity and blaming me for children killing themselves, and then ending the interview calling me a demon. Absolutely below the belt interviewer who desperately tried to twist my words for clickbait and views. Wait, what about the fact that you still sell material that you yourself consider grooming material? I don't understand. Why didn't Ollie London include that part in his fucking conversation? Perhaps because, like, you know, absolutely eviscerated him, right? I believe in the importance of respecting others despite their opinions, and believe in the importance of having a sensible and respectful debate. But sadly, this person has no idea what respect really means. First of all, don't right-wingers say respect is you know, earned, not given? What have you ever done to earn any respect from anybody, you know? Anyway, so as far as Serbia goes, I'm sorry to the Serbians.